If I could talk to the animals, just imagine it, chatting with a chimp and chimpanzee. Imagine talking to a tiger, chatting with a cheetah. What a neat achievement it would be if we could talk to the animals, learn all their languages, maybe take an animal degree. I'd study elephant and eagle, buffalo and beagle, alligator, guinea pig, and flea.
Hello and welcome to Pet Watch, a monthly program about the Williamson County Animal Control and Adoption Center. Well, summer is here, so we have special concerns for cats and dogs that we want to talk about today. We have high temperatures coming into the forecast, and we have lots of outside activities, and that means special needs for some of our pets and things we need to think about that we don't think about other times of the year. My guest for the first part of our show is Doug Brightwell, the Director of Williamson County Animal Control. And Doug is here to talk to us about dog safety and cat safety in the hot weather months.
Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Now, we know that in summer, we all tend to get outside more.
Yes, we did.
We do things that we would never do other times of the year.
Very true.
Swim, have picnics, park our cars in hot places.
All of which can be very hazardous to your pets.
Right. Let's talk about some of those hazards. I know that we have already had 2 calls at Animal Control this year about pets locked in vehicles.
Yes.
Tell us what happens if you leave your pet in a vehicle.
Well, when you leave your pet in a vehicle, the car is not running and the air conditioner is not on. The temperature in that car will rise rapidly. It can get as high as 20 to 25 degrees higher than the outside temperature extremely quickly, and on a very hot day, it can get even higher than that the longer the car sits. Heat stroke will kill a pet pretty quickly. Just they overheat and they will have a lot of complications with that, and they will die very quickly or go into such distress that you may not be able to save them if you don't get to them quick enough to get them to the vet and get them cooled back down, because their body temperature just goes very high very quickly and very dangerously, and it just will shut down all their systems and it can be fatal.
Well, it's interesting to think about, because sometimes people think, I'm just going to run the store. I don't want to leave my windows down because my car or my pet could get stolen. But you're actually causing more harm by taking that chance with your animal.
Yes, you don't want to take that chance with your animal, and leaving the windows cracked and leaving a bowl of water in the car with the pet is still not satisfactory, because that is not going to be sufficient for prevention of a heat stroke if you leave that pet in that closed up car for any length of time at all. It's not worth the chance, especially if you value your pet.
Right, and a heat stroke can be fatal.
It will be fatal very quickly.
To an animal.
Yes.
Like a child, an animal can't tell you the symptoms it's having. It simply just pants itself.
Correct.
Out.
We've already gotten 2 or 3 calls on pets being left in cars on some of the warmer days, and that is going to increase, and we respond as quickly as we can. But we only have 3 officers throughout the county, so if we get a call and the officers on the other side of the county, it takes us some time to get there. So many times even your police departments will get involved to help us with that situation. So it's very serious, and you have to react very quickly.
Right, and citizens have seen animals locked in vehicles and called the police department before in order to save those animals. And people learn a hard lesson that way.
Yes, they do.
I don't think it's intentional. We don't want our pets to die, but we need to just think.
Yes.
What's important, and
that 5-minute trip in the store is not worth the risk of your pet's life.
No, it's certainly not. And a lot of the things that we're concerned with in hot weather are simply things that we're also concerned about for ourselves, our families, and our children.
That's correct.
And they're really common sense. A pet is not that much more resilient to the heat than a human being is.
You've got to have fresh water. They need to stay hydrated just like we do. If you've got a dog that lives outside or a cat that lives outside, have fresh water available for them at all times. Make sure they've got shelter and shade. Just because they've got a dog house, but if it's sitting out in an acre of yard with no with no shade, it's still going to get hot in that dog house. So find a way to give that pet some auxiliary shade in addition to their dog house. And outside activities are also going to be an issue.
Yeah, that's something to think about. Backyard barbecues are more prominent, picnics, and sometimes we have those in our backyards, in our neighborhoods. Sometimes we have them in public places, and we need to be cognizant of whether an animal even needs to be at those places.
Correct. Besides the crowds, the length of time those events go on, the environment that they're in, and your folks are not always looking at the benefit of the dog. And if it's better to leave the dog at home in a calm, cool place, well, for the event, that's better off for everybody. That way you don't have to worry and stress about if he's been out in the heat too long.
Now, it's also, we've had a lot of cases lately of heartworms. There is a heartworm preventative for animals that your veterinarian can administer, and that's another thing that seems to come to rise in the summer is
mosquitoes.
Yes. Are the source, are they not, of the heartworm infection?
Yes.
Okay.
The mosquitoes carry they bite a dog that's infected with heartworms, then they carry those larvae and bite the next dog, and when they bite the next dog, they can transmit those larvae into his system or her system, and then they can develop heartworm disease. If you give your monthly heartworm prevention from your vet, and they've got a negative heartworm test annually, that prevention is going to kill those larvae that they may pick up from a mosquito and prevent the dog from getting the active disease.
Okay, so just like rabies, it's a very
simple
preventable disease.
Yes.
And if your dog gets it, the treatment is expensive.
Yes.
Much more expensive than the prevention.
The prevention is not that much per month, but the disease to treat takes quite a while to treat and is also extremely expensive, depending on the method used and the vet that you're using and all of that.
And we're known for our mosquito infestations.
Yes, we are.
Here. We're in the sultry, humid environment where there are a lot of mosquitoes. So that's a simple thing you can do to protect your pet and other pets, because you don't want that dog or cat. Can cats get heartworms too?
Cats get heartworms too, and there is preventive out there just like there is for dogs.
Okay.
But there's not as easy a way to treat cats as there is dogs. So
Okay.
dogs are easier to treat for the disease if they get infected. Cats, it is not as easy. So the prevention is the cheapest and easiest way for both cats and dogs to prevent heartworm disease,
Okay.
Especially during this mosquito. You need to give the prevention year-round
Right.
for prevention, but the summer months are your most likely time of infection.
Right. So if your animal is not on a heartworm preventative, summer is a good time to tell yourself, I need to go to the vet. I need to get them tested and start them on a preventative.
Correct.
So it's much better than just wondering if they're ever going to catch the disease,
Yes.
because we have dogs all the time that come through the shelter that have heartworms, and
the last 8 months we've had 6 dogs with heartworms.
right, and they all have to be treated and confined to a small area during the duration of their antibiotics or whatever the treatment is, and so it's a little bit harder to get them into adoption. And
It is.
But we end up getting them there, but the hard way.
Yes,
the
we do.
Expensive way. So.
We treat them and help them with their recovery period, and then we get them adopted. But the adoption process is daunting for many people because they don't want to take on that
Right.
ordeal.
Right.
So many of the times we end up trying to do it beforehand so they're ready to go home once the treatment is done.
And other dogs that come through adoption all have received their heartworm test and prevention.
That's correct. We heartworm test everybody before they go into adoption, and we administer monthly heartworm prevention to all the dogs while they're in adoption at our facility.
Okay.
And we encourage adopters to please keep up that process when they take them home.
Sure. It's such a simple thing. Let's talk about swimming pools.
Okay.
That is another thing that people who have pools in their yard often think it's really cute to throw a ball out there and the dog chases it and swims back to the side.
Yes.
What are the dangers for pets in pools?
The dangers for pets in pools are just like the dangers with kids in pools. We see every year, we hear about a small number, but I'm sure the number is greater, of people with backyard pools and their dogs get in the pool during the day while they're at work or in the evening when they've gone to bed, and the pet's drowned in the pool. And that is a horrifying thought to wake up to the next morning or come home to that afternoon.
Sure.
So there are some dogs who are good swimmers and all that, and the individual owners need to make that call themselves. But prevent your dog from getting in that pool when you're not there to supervise, because you want to prevent that drowning if that's the likelihood with your pet.
Sure. So if the fence is around the pool to keep the children safe,
Keep the dog safe too.
that is not a good place to confine
No.
a dog.
No.
I know that some, like you said, can swim better than others. It's okay if you're supervising your dog; it
Right.
should be fine.
Yes.
But also, there's a danger. Dogs will lap up pool water, and sometimes they contain chemicals.
Depending on, because there's saltwater pools, there's chlorinated pools, and you've got to make sure the pH is right. So it's very complicated. So we never recommend using your pool as the water source for your pet.
Right.
You want to use regular drinking water for your pet, not pool water because of the chemicals and the pH issues and all that with the pool.
And they actually have flotation devices for dogs too.
Yes, they do.
That was interesting. I read about that. Also, I want to mention that there are dogs that are awfully furry, and people tend to think they're so hot. I think I'll get them shaved for the summer.
Yes, and that is a good recommendation if your dog, because I have a dog that I shave every summer. However, you need to be careful that he doesn't get sunburned as soon as you get him shaved, because that skin has been covered by his hair all winter. So you just like when you or I start going out in the sun for the beginning of the season, limit your sun exposure, make sure there's plenty of shade. Use protection so your pet doesn't get sunburned, because they can get sunburned just like you or I do.
Interesting. Well, like I said before, I think it's common sense that what we do for ourselves and our children to stay safe in the sun and in the hot weather is we should do for our pets.
Absolutely.
And also one of the things to consider is that pets are walking on hot asphalt without shoes.
That's true.
We would not want our children to run or walk for hours or
Right.
minutes even. Hot asphalt can burn the bottom of your feet,
Yes.
and it can hurt a dog's or
Yes.
cat's feet as well.
Absolutely. And with the summertime exercise and activity that people are taking their pets on, just like you don't want to run in the heat of the day, most of the time you want to do that exercise, the walking and the running and the biking. If you're taking your pet with you, we recommend during the heat of the summer, do it in the early morning or late in the evening or late afternoon when the temperatures are cooler, because that way you're not causing the distress from the heat. And also, if they have not been used to exercising, you don't want them to get overheated and overexerted. You need to acclimate them to the exercise just like you do yourself.
Yes.
Don't just assume because they're a dog we can start running 4 miles a day.
Right.
You've got to work them up to it and
And-
condition them just like you do your bird.
And dogs cool themselves by panting
Yes.
and breathing in cool air and drinking cool water, so they don't have the ability to sweat
That's
in the
correct.
sense that we do.
Correct.
And they are so loyal, they'll run and run forever. We're winding up this segment, but I do want to mention that lawn care products are dangerous for
Right.
pets. Gasoline cans, pool chemicals, spraying your yard with a pesticide.
Correct.
I had a situation where my neighbor routinely sprayed his yard, and our dog got exposed, and he had a seizure reaction to just a little dog, of course, is more susceptible to all of these dangers than a large dog. Their systems are smaller,
Right.
as you've told me before, and they just get sicker, faster, and react worse.
When everybody's out and about doing their thing, just keep an eye on your pets for anything that doesn't look normal, because of the exposure to not just what is going on in your yard, but your
Right.
neighbor's yards. It all has an impact, and we want to make sure we're being safe for our pets.
Right, and grills and outside grills, fire is a danger. Animals are curious about what's cooking on the grill. They could tip it over.
Right.
And fireworks are common in the summer, and that is a universal scare for dogs.
is.
I don't- and-
Anxiety gets really high during fireworks season.
Yeah. So please use common sense this summer when you're out and about, and consider your pets like one of your children, and don't subject them to things that you wouldn't subject your own family to. Doug, I want to thank you for bringing these points to our attention.
Thank you, Debbie.
And we want everybody to have a safe and happy summer and take good care of their pets. We'll be back in a moment with the second part of Pet Watch.
If you're looking for a loan or you'd like to buy a home, when you want to land a job or your identity's been robbed, annualcreditreport.com, the one you can depend upon. Check your credit to review all your bills and payments too. It's as easy as can be, and it's absolutely free. Hey! Annualcreditreport.com, the one you can depend upon. Beware of the others, there's always a catch. They claim to be free, but strings are attached. Their ads can be funny, so don't be deceived. Hold on to your money, there's one site you need. AnnualCreditReport.com, the one you can depend upon. AnnualCreditReport.com, the one you can depend upon.
AnnualCreditReport.com. No hidden fees, absolutely free.
I was severely injured in an ambush right towards the end of my first tour. Part of the stigma is that people think if I ask for help that I'm showing weakness, whereas I think it's just the opposite. It takes real strength to say, I've got an issue that I'm dealing with and it's affecting my life, and it's affecting my performance, and I need to go get some help. And I can attest that it's there and it does help.
Things are so nice when you come back initially, and then the regular life sets in and you start having trouble thinking about your past experiences. You have to be ready to tell your story. But this generation seems to want to talk about it, and it's very therapeutic, so everybody should be given a chance to tell their story.
We're taught from day one, recruit training, take care of each other, no matter what the condition is. It all comes back to, it takes real strength to swallow your pride and to say, I need help, and actually get the help.
Welcome back to Pet Watch. In this part of the program, we'll be talking about fostering animals and being a kind of foster parent for dogs and cats at the Williamson County Animal Shelter and what that involves. My guest is Mark Basenberg. Good morning, Mark.
Morning, Debbie.
Mark is our Community Relations Coordinator, and part of his job is coordinating our volunteers, and one of the things you can do as a volunteer is be a foster. Tell us about why the Williamson County Animal Control and Adoption Center might ever need fosters.
It is a recurring need, and it changes from time to time, the volume of fosters that we need. Right now, we're just right in the middle of what we call kitten season, and we just have a huge inflow every year at this time of large numbers of kittens. People find litters of kittens that have been born on their property, or we find them. A citizen will call us. As an example, I believe it was last Saturday, a citizen called us and said there were 24 kittens and 3 mother cats that had been abandoned behind the Home Depot store. And so we sent an officer out, if I remember correctly, and picked up the cats, brought them all back in, and we had to immediately, our people got on the phone. It was a Saturday. Our people got on the phone to call the list of fosters that we keep, and everybody stepped up, and within 2 or 3 hours we had every one of those little kittens and the mama cats in homes.
Good.
So,
so that's an overcrowding situation where you can't possibly bring in 24 kittens and 3 mother cats on a Friday afternoon without some help, and we do depend so on the community to be our helpers in these situations.
We do, we do, and we get, there's sometimes we'll have 3-day-old kittens that we'll find or something like that. Now those kittens would need to go into a home, and they need to be bottle fed frequently, and we'll train people how to do that, but we're not staffed 24/7. So it's very important that we get those kittens into homes to give them a chance at survival.
Sure, and in addition to overcrowding situations, one of the things that's come up recently are dogs that we were trying to move into adoption who tested positive for heartworm.
Right.
And they require a foster. And why does a dog under heartworm medication require to or need to be removed from the shelter and go into a home environment for several weeks?
Good question. We just feel like it's better for them because in a home environment it's easier to maintain the low level of activity because during this 4 to 6 week period that they're recovering from the heartworm treatment, because you've got to understand it's a tough process. It's actually, they receive an injection at the shelter or from a veterinarian, and it's an arsenic-based compound, and the purpose of it is to kill the adult heartworms that are living in the animal. And these adult heartworms, by the way, I like to spring this on particularly the school kids. They can grow to be 12 inches in length.
Oh my!
Adult heartworms. So it's like having spaghetti in your veins and getting into your heart and your lungs and all that stuff. So as the heartworms die, they disintegrate. They break into little bits, and if the blood pressure of the dog gets too high during this period, then the little bits can, cause big problems by going into the heart and lungs. So that's why it's so important to keep the animal at a low activity level. And it's just difficult in the shelter. We have, a steady stream throughout the day of volunteers coming in to walk the dogs, and not every volunteer is experienced, and it just might be easy for.
It's easier for one person to give the one-on-one care, and it's not that the dog needs a lot of special medical care once it gets to the foster home, but it just needs to be quiet, and it needs to recover.
That's all it is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all it is. It doesn't require any specific medical expertise or anything. It's just maintaining a calm environment for the dog.
Yeah, who can be a foster? How do you become one?
We have a foster application because we want to know what other animals do you have in the house. What's your work day like? Are you going to be home? Are you going to be gone all day? Are you going to be home part of the day? If you have a yard, is it a fenced-in yard? We just want to know. Be sure it's going to be a win-win situation for the animal and the foster. But other than that, I mean, there's no specific training or anything. Anybody can really be a foster, and we're trying to recruit new fosters, all the time. And we've had some great success. We'll do a Facebook post and say we really need a foster right now for this, a dog or a cat, or explain the situation. And we've had some just fabulous new people that have said, I'd like to help, and have come in and done a great job.
Good.
Yeah.
One of the other needs is sometimes our cats that are in our care get an upper respiratory infection, and apparently that spreads very quickly between cats, and ours are separated in different kennels, but it is an airborne thing, and if one cat starts to sneeze and spread those germs, we can kind of get a little mini epidemic going of a non-fatal but treatable upper respiratory infection in cats.
Very true.
And sometimes it's better for us to foster them out. And we've recently had a situation where we really needed to get all our adult cats who all had basically colds or upper respiratory out of the shelter to keep those kittens you talked about who are coming in the door from also being infected.
Exactly.
So we were successful in recently, the community responded, and we're fostering about 15 cats now out, and they'll receive antibiotics, and we gave instructions to each of those fosters. Sometimes you do have to administer a little medication if you foster an animal. Is that not right?
Sometimes you do. I mean, typically, depending on the severity of the upper respiratory infection, you might have to give an antibiotic orally once or twice a day for maybe 2 weeks. Sometimes it doesn't require any medication. They just need to get out because the shelter environment is so stressful on the cat's immune system, and sometimes if we can just get them out of the shelter into a calm home, they just recover on their own pretty quickly.
And cats are pretty laid back anyway.
Yeah.
Cat feeding time is quiet, and dog feeding time is loud.
Yeah.
I know that. And when you were talking about the dogs and the excitement and the heartworms, the dogs get so excited when the walkers come in or the people who are feeding them, that starts a chain reaction from kennel to kennel to kennel.
It does.
And that dog who happens to have heartworms can get very overexcited.
Exactly.
In the shelter and be jumping and barking, and if they were home laying on a couch with somebody, they'd have a much better chance of not having any of those complications you talked about.
That's very true. That's very true. And since I've been at the shelter, we've had several cases of heartworms that we've treated, and every one that we've treated has been a successful recovery. So, I mean, the outcome is good, but we just have to get them treated.
Yeah, we have an interesting we have interesting jobs in that things just happen miraculously sometimes. We even had a dog go down to a dog care facility in Spring Hill for his recuperation.
That's right.
And he lived the good life while he was.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. That was Wilbur. During his treatment, he stayed at a doggy daycare facility, thanks to the generosity of both the facility, which is called Doggone Good Time Farms, I believe, in Spring Hill, and then they offered a reduced rate, and then some other people in the community, people I didn't even know, they stepped up and said, I'll pay for 2 weeks, he went down and had a successful treatment, and now he's in a great home.
That's great.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do have some special needs dogs. I know recently we've had a couple of dogs that were blind, and we had a deaf dog.
Yeah.
And they might require some special socialization in a home before they could become adoptable.
Right.
And that's another thing a foster could do. If they're familiar with the dogs with special needs or willing to work with them, it
Yes.
helps that dog become more adoptable. If they go to somebody's home, spend a week or two, and then that person can say, now here's what I've trained them to do, here's how they react. So when someone does come to adopt the dog, it's been socialized.
Yes, I mean that is so valuable, and it helps that dog so much, and improves his chances of being adopted. It gives us, on the special needs dogs, it gives them an opportunity to, you know, as you say, become more socialized. For example, we have a couple of deaf dogs right now, and one of our employees took one of the dogs home a couple of days ago, and that's going to be a challenge. She's experienced and she can handle it. Not everybody could maybe do that, but I'm sure there are a lot of people out there in Williamson County that could do this. They just haven't really thought about maybe offering to help. So
Sure.
you know, we're trying to reach those people.
Sure, and anyone who's watching who would like to kind of keep up and become a follower of us should get on our Facebook account and friend us or like us. And we're listed as Williamson County Animal Shelter. And this is one of the places where we find it most effective to post our urgent needs, daily needs. We also post great stories about animals like Wilbur and how he went to the doggy spa for his in Spring Hill. It's just great to hear these things, and it inspires other people, I think, to know that there are things they can do on a regular basis, or just when they're moved, when they're so moved. I know with our deaf dogs, we make a post about it, and somebody will respond, well, I had a deaf dog once, and I have a special collar that maybe it would help. Would you would you email me? And it's amazing how our community always responds. And with the recent fostering of the cats, that all started with a Facebook post.
It did.
And I love the pictures on there of the kids who come into the shelter who've had, we've had birthday parties, instead of asking for gifts, we had a little boy asked for donations.
Right. We've had that several times. We even had someone who, for their wedding, rather than wedding gifts, they requested gifts for the animals.
Okay, so we're on a registry, so to speak, for somebody.
So.
Yeah,
I guess so.
That's wonderful. I want to encourage anyone who would think they might want to be a foster to call Mark at the shelter anytime, discuss it, and we actually have a foster list we can put you on, whether you want dogs or cats, whether it's your first time or you've been a foster before. We have fosters that have hundreds of animals over the years and find it very fulfilling to have them in their home for several weeks, and then they let them return to be adopted. And we'd also like to encourage you to please spay and neuter your animals so we don't have so many strays and so much overcrowding, especially the cats. We would like to encourage you to help control the pet population by having your pet spayed or neutered. It's a simple thing, and it means so much in the long run that that animal is not reproducing other unwanted kittens for years to come. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be busy with several adoption events, but one I want to highlight today is that we will be at the Williamson County Library main branch on Friday, June 21st for a Touch-a-Truck event. It will be during the day on Friday, and we will have our mobile unit, Mac, who carries dogs and cats and a great sheltered environment. We will drive Mac over there and have great animals for adoption that day. And I encourage you to come out to the library for that Touch-a-Truck event and see our mobile unit and enjoy that day at the library parking lot on Friday, June 21st. If you are thinking of adopting a pet, you can come to that event, or you can come by our shelter at 106 Claude Yates Drive. It's right next to Franklin High School. The pet intake area is open Monday through Friday from 8 to 6, and adoption is open Monday through Friday 10 to 6, and Saturdays from 11 to 3. We do have options for you. If you're thinking of having your animal spayed or neutered, call and see if you qualify for a free surgery. The number at the shelter is 790-5590. That'll get you started in any way that you want to help. We appreciate your support of the Williamson County Animal Control and Adoption Center, and I thank you, Mark, for being here today, and hopefully you've inspired some people to become fosters.
I hope so. Thank you for having me.
Sure. Please call Mark anytime you would like to discuss any of the options for volunteering, and a number again is 790-5590. Thank you for watching Pet Watch, and we'll see you next month.
If I could talk to the animals, just imagine it, chatting with a chimp and chimpanzee. Imagine talking to a tiger, chatting with a cheetah. What a neat achievement it would be if we could talk to the animals, learn all that